Today, I will be exposing something the facelift industry doesn't want you to know. The secret cream specialists are using under their eyes every single night. And for your surprise, it costs $3 and you can find it at any pharmacy. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never spend money on an eye cream again, because the expensive eye creams you have been buying are in large part a copy of this product. A watered down and heavily marketed version of it with a price tag that has nothing to do with how well it works and everything to do with how it was sold to you. You will also understand exactly why that is true, what it means for your under eye skin specifically, and what to do tonight to start reversing the damage. Before we talk about the solution, I need to explain why the eye area ages the way it does, because it's important that you stop blaming yourself for trying things that didn't work. They didn't work because they were solving the wrong problem. The skin under your eyes is roughly 0.5 millimeters thick. The skin on the rest of your face is around 2 millimeters. That is 4 times thinner. It has almost no sebaceous glands. Those are the glands that naturally oil and protect your skin throughout the day, which means it has almost no built-in moisture defense. Every time the wind blows, every time the heating comes on in winter, every time you wash your face, the under-eye skin loses water and has very little ability to pull it back. That is why it is always the first place to look hollow, creased, and exhausted. Now, under-eye bags specifically come from 2 different sources, and this distinction actually matters for how you treat them. The first is structural. The fat pads that sit beneath the eye are held in place by connective tissue, and as that tissue weakens over decades, those fat pads shift forward and become visible through the very thin skin above them. That is a structural change that almost no cream in the world can fix, with the few exceptions I will talk later. The second source of under-eye bags is fluid. As we age, our lymphatic system, the network responsible for draining excess fluid and toxins out of our tissues, becomes slower and less efficient. That fluid accumulates in the delicate tissue beneath the eyes, and it shows up as puffiness, particularly in the morning. This type of bag absolutely responds to treatment. It responds to how you sleep, what you eat, and critically, how you hydrate and seal the skin barrier in that area. Most women over 50 have both types to some degree, which is why most products never make the bags disappear completely. But the fluid component, the puffiness, the swelling, the exhausted look, that can be dramatically reduced when you address what is actually causing it. A collapsed moisture barrier on skin so thin it cannot protect itself. Let me tell you something about the history of this industry that most people never hear, because it explains almost everything about why you have been spending money on products that underdeliver. This product is called lanolin, and it's not new. It is ancient and comes from sheep wool. Roman women used it. We know this because Ovid, the Roman poet, wrote about it, describing it as the only cream women used to care for their skin. By the early 1900s, refined lanolin was a staple ingredient in apothecaries across Europe and North America. It was what dermatologists reached for when they needed to repair damaged, dry, or compromised skin. Then the cosmetic industry scaled up. From the 1950s through the 1970s, every major beauty company opened its own research and development laboratory and began racing to invent something they could patent. Something proprietary, something they could put in a sleek bottle and charge a premium for. The language of skincare changed during this period. Cold cream became hydrating complex. Ointment became restorative serum. And lanolin, the ingredient that had been working quietly for decades, began to fade from the marketing conversation. Not because something better replaced it, but because you cannot put a patent on something that comes from sheep's wool. The final blow came in the late 1970s and early 1980s, when the oil-free skincare trend swept through the industry. Think about the fat-free food movement that happened in parallel. Same psychology, same result. Beauty brands latched onto flawed dermatological research from that era that falsely labeled oils as pore-clogging and acne-causing. The evidence behind those claims was weak, but the marketing was powerful. Women were told that oils were the enemy. Lanolin, being a rich, lipid-based ingredient, got swept out with everything else. And here is the irony. Many of the oil-free products that replaced it still contained oil-derived ingredients just under different names. The science had not changed, only the branding had. The result is that an entire generation of women was trained to distrust the one category of ingredient their aging skin actually needs most. Because after menopause, skin produces significantly less of its own lipids. The barrier thins. The skin's ability to hold water collapses. And the answer to that, an ingredient that closely mimics the skin's own oils and seals that barrier, was sitting in a $3 tin at the pharmacy the entire time. Now let me explain precisely why lanolin is so well suited to the under eye area specifically, because the reasons are chemical, not accidental. First, lanolin's lipid profile is structurally similar to human sebum. It contains fatty acids, cholesterol, and wax esters that closely mirror the lipids found in the outermost layer of the skin. Because of this similarity, when you apply lanolin to the skin, it does not simply sit on the surface the way many moisturizers do. It integrates with the skin's own lipid matrix, the barrier that controls moisture loss and keeps irritants out. For the under eye area, which produces almost no sebum on its own, this is not just moisturizing, it is replacing what that skin stopped making. Secondly, lanolin holds water in a way that is genuinely unusual. Once absorbed, it can retain up to 400% of its own weight in water. Compare that to the hyaluronic acid in your premium eye serum, which is a humectant. It pulls moisture toward the skin from the surrounding air, but it does not seal it in. On a dry day, hyaluronic acid can actually draw moisture out of your skin if the air is drier than your face. Lanolin works differently. It forms a semi-permeable barrier that traps existing moisture in the tissue and prevents it from escaping overnight, which is when skin loses the most water. Besides that, lanolin functions as both an occlusive and an emollient simultaneously, which is rare. Occlusives seal, emollients soften and smooth. Most skincare ingredients do one or the other. Lanolin does both, which means it is addressing two aspects of under-eye aging at once: the structural dryness that creates fine lines and the water loss that creates that papery, thin, collapsed look that no amount of concealer can fully cover. There is also a vitamin D component worth mentioning. Lanolin is fat-soluble and naturally contains vitamin D, the same vitamin that supports the skin's immune response, helps maintain the barrier function, and plays a role in cell repair. Because vitamin D is fat-soluble, it needs a fat-rich vehicle to penetrate into the skin effectively. Lanolin provides exactly that. This is not the primary mechanism, but it contributes to why the skin around the eye tends to look healthier and more resilient over consistent use. Here's exactly how to use it. Every detail matters because the way most people apply product to this area is actually counterproductive. Use it only at night. Lanolin is a barrier sealing treatment, not a daytime hydrator. During the day, your skin needs to interact with the environment, regulate temperature, and remain compatible with SPF and makeup. At night, none of those constraints apply. The skin enters a repair cycle roughly between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., so applying lanolin before bed means the barrier you are building is working in sync with that natural repair window. Before applying, lightly dampen the under-eye area with a cotton pad moistened with plain water. Do not dry it fully. Lanolin is an occlusive, which means it seals in what is already there, so you want existing moisture present when you apply it. If you apply it to completely dry skin, you are sealing in dryness. A damp surface means you are locking in hydration. Use a grain of rice amount per eye, no more. Warm it between the pad of your ring finger and your thumb for a few seconds before applying. The ring finger is the finger with the least natural strength, which is exactly why surgeons and estheticians recommend it for the eye area. Apply using a gentle tapping motion, starting from the outer corner of the eye and moving inward toward the nose. This direction follows the natural pathway of your lymphatic drainage in the face. When you are buying it, look specifically for pharmaceutical-grade lanolin, or HP lanolin, which stands for highly purified. The allergy concerns that gave lanolin a bad reputation decades ago were largely traced to pesticide contamination in lower-quality agricultural processing. Medical-grade and pharmaceutical-grade lanolin is refined to eliminate those trace impurities. I want to address the questions you are probably already forming, because they are legitimate. If you are wondering whether this will clog pores, don't worry. The under-eye area has an exceptionally low density of pores compared to the rest of the face. Clogging is rarely an issue there, even with richer products. If you have a known wool allergy, proceed with caution and do a patch test behind the ear for 24 hours before applying near your eyes. Wool allergy and lanolin sensitivity are related but not identical. Many people with wool sensitivity tolerate pharmaceutical-grade lanolin without any reaction because the proteins that cause wool allergy are removed during the purification process. But if you react in that patch test, stop there. As for expectations, you should see an improvement in the skin's texture, hydration, and the visible depth of fine lines. The fluid component of puffiness tends to reduce after 2 to 3 weeks of consistent nightly use because the barrier is becoming healthier and water retention in the tissue is normalizing. You will not wake up after one night with a transformation. I want to leave you with one thing to think about. The facelift industry in the United States generates billions of dollars per year. Lower eyelid blepharoplasty, the surgical procedure that removes under-eye fat bags, costs between $3,000 and $8,000, and the results are not permanent. The skin continues to age, and even the fluid component of puffiness does not go away with surgery. A $3 tin of pharmaceutical-grade lanolin, used correctly and consistently, rebuilds the moisture barrier on the thinnest skin on your face, seals in hydration at a cellular level, and supports the natural repair process. Your skin is already trying to run every night. It is not glamorous. It does not come in a glass jar with a gold lid. But the mechanism is ancient and well studied, and the cost is low. So tonight, I want you to clean the face, use a grain of rice amount of this product, repeat this every night for 3 weeks, and then come back here and tell me what you noticed. If you watched until the end and thought this information was useful, please consider leaving a like and subscribe for more videos.